Ovulation is a part of the menstrual cycle when the ovary releases a ripe egg, or ovum. Inside the ovary are hundreds of thousands of follicles. Each follicle is a hollow ball of cells with an immature egg in the center. The typical 28-day menstrual cycle begins on the first day of menstrual bleeding. During the first 7 days of the cycle, a few follicles begin to grow at the same time. These maturing follicles secrete estrogen hormone into the bloodstream to prepare the lining of the uterus for pregnancy. Around day 7, all of the follicles stop growing and begin to degenerate, except for one. This dominant follicle continues to grow and nourishes the developing egg inside it. Around day 12, the follicle secretes a large amount of estrogen into the bloodstream. When the estrogen reaches the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland in the brain, the anterior or front part of the pituitary gland releases a huge surge of luteinizing hormone into the bloodstream. Around day 14, luteinizing hormone causes the follicle to undergo a sudden growth spurt. Right before ovulation, the egg detaches from the inside of the follicle. The bulging follicle releases chemicals, causing one of the two fallopian tubes to move in closer and surround the follicle. The follicle swells until it bursts open, ejecting the egg and fluid from the follicle into the abdominal cavity. In response, the fimbriae, tiny projections at the end of the fallopian tube, sweep across the ovulation site and pick up the egg. Microscopic cilia on the fimbriae surface transport the egg to the entrance of the fallopian tube. Inside the walls of the fallopian tube, muscular contractions gently push the egg towards the uterus. After ovulation, the egg lives for 12 to 24 hours, so it must be fertilized by a sperm from the male during this time for a woman to become pregnant. If it's not fertilized, the egg dissolves away and is shed along with the uterine lining during menstruation.
Within a week of conception, your fertilized egg, known as a blastocyst, will make its way to your uterus. The egg is about the size of a pen tip. In days, the cells in the egg arrange themselves into groupings. The inner cell mass will become your baby. The outer cells will become the amniotic sac and placenta. The blastocyst then sheds its protective casing in a process called hatching and burrows into the lush uterine wall. Around week 5, your developing baby is the size of a sesame seed. The cells that once formed the blastocyst's inner cell mass begin organizing and arranging, giving shape to the young embryo and forming primitive organs. Your baby's brain and spinal cord are visible through his translucent skin. Right around this time, your baby's circulatory system also forms, and his heart begins to beat. Your baby looks more like a tiny tadpole than a human. He's drawing nutrients and oxygen through the newly formed placenta and umbilical cord. By week 9, the embryonic tail is gone. Your baby's looking more human every day. Protruding limbs and fingers, a defined nose, mouth, and eyes, and tiny earlobes. Your new resident is about the size of a grape and weighs a fraction of an ounce. It's hard to believe how rapidly one cell evolves in such a short time into the unmistakable body of a baby. At 10 weeks and barely the size of a kumquat, your baby is entering the fetal stage of development. His facial features are defined, and his tooth buds are forming. Over the next weeks, his tissues and organs will rapidly grow and mature. The webbing is gone between his fingers and toes, and his nails and fingerprints are developing. Your baby can open and close his fists and curl his toes. Thanks to his developing muscles and reflexes, he's now moving his limbs and kicking up a storm. If this is your first baby, though, you likely won't feel his flutters until 18 to 20 weeks. Through translucent skin, his vital organs are visible and functioning, including his growing brain, nervous system, intestines, and liver, which is making red blood cells in place of the disappearing yolk sac. The umbilical cord is working hard now. One vein delivers oxygen and nutrient-rich blood to your baby. 2 arteries then carry the blood away. Around week 12, the kidneys have begun producing urine, which your baby will soon start excreting into the amniotic fluid. He'll swallow the fluid and the process will begin again. By week 14, your baby's eyes and ears have moved into place, and he can squint, frown, and grimace. You're now beginning the second trimester of pregnancy, which many women say is when they feel their best. Between 15 and 20 weeks, your baby will more than double in size. As his body grows, his nervous system is rapidly maturing. His nerves are connecting his brain to the rest of his body, traveling from the brain through the brainstem and down the spine, and beginning to extend into his torso and limbs. Your baby's skeleton is changing too. The soft cartilage is starting to harden into bone. This happens first in the arms and legs. Sensory development is picking up speed. Your baby's brain is designating special areas for smell, taste, hearing, vision, and touch. At this stage, your baby may be able to hear your heartbeat and voice, so read aloud or sing a happy tune. Your baby may even be sucking his thumb now. At about 18 weeks, you'll start to experience one of the most exciting parts of pregnancy, feeling your baby's movements. His flexing arms and legs may feel like gentle flutters at first. They'll become even stronger and more frequent in the weeks ahead. At 20 weeks, your baby weighs a little more than 10 ounces and measures about 10 inches from head to heel, about the length of a banana. This week is a big milestone, the halfway point in your pregnancy. Baby are beginning your last trimester together. At 28 weeks, your baby weighs just over 2 pounds. He'll more than triple his weight between now and birth and build a layer of fat that will help keep him warm outside the womb. Your baby's skeleton is hardening. The bones in his head have not yet fused together, which will allow them to slightly overlap as his head passes through the snug space of the birth canal. Billions of neurons have developed and are firing in your baby's brain, creating essential connections that will help him learn in and outside the womb. Your baby can open his eyes now and see the light that filters through your womb. He can hear too, so go ahead and talk or sing to your baby. As your due date nears, your baby will shed small bits of vernix caseosa, the white cheesy substance that covers his entire body and protects his skin from the amniotic fluid he's floating in. Your baby swallows some of these bits, along with other secretions, which pass through his digestive system to become his first bowel movement. At 37 weeks, your baby's skin is pink and soft. He's looking less like a wrinkled alien and more like a baby. He's gaining nearly 1 ounce a day and weighs about 6 pounds. He's now considered full term. In preparation for birth, most babies will turn so their head is facing downward. Your baby will stay that way, head resting in your pelvic area, as he gets ready to greet the world. In the weeks before birth, your body slows down production of the hormone progesterone while increasing production of other hormones, including prostaglandins, which soften the cervix, and oxytocin, which triggers the uterine muscles to contract. True labor contractions are rhythmic and painful and grow consistently stronger. As the long vertical muscle bands of the uterus tighten, they pull the cervix open. The strong muscles at the top of the uterus push down and release, guiding your baby toward the cervix. The mucus plug, a collection of thickened cervical mucus that sealed your cervix shut for 9 months, may be expelled days before or in the midst of labor. When the amniotic sac ruptures, your water has broken. It can feel like a trickle or a gush of fluid. Your cervix will begin opening and thinning, known as dilation and effacement. Once you reach about 4 centimeters, your body will move into active labor. In active labor, contractions become stronger and closer together. At 8 centimeters, you enter what many consider the most painful part of labor, transition. By 10 centimeters, you're fully dilated and may feel the urge to push. This is your signal that the second stage of labor has begun. Your baby will move down with each contraction. The 3 separate soft bones of his head will temporarily overlap so he can pass through the snug birth canal. Your baby's scalp will come into view. When the widest part of his head is visible, your baby is crowning. With several more pushes, your baby's face, shoulders, and body will emerge. In the third and final stage of labor, your placenta detaches and is expelled. With your baby's first breath, the incredible journey of birth is complete.